How's it going, everyone? It is Ken and Jack from Pixelated Thoughts, and in this video, we're going to talk about Supervive. This is an upcoming Battle Royale title from developer TheoryCraft Games. It's probably one of the most unique Battle Royale experiences we've played, and it might just be one of Jeks' most anticipated games moving forward. The footage you're seeing is from Jek's stream, and I want to get his thoughts on his time with Supervive and if there is anything he'd like to look forward to in the future. That being said, let's dive in. So, Jack, can you explain what Supervive is?
Yeah, it's a free-to-play squad-based hero battle royale. Um, it plays a lot like League of Legends with the top-down view and the health and then all that. But it's got a couple different elements from developers from like Apex Legends and I think maybe Fortnite and Overwatch. Um, but it's definitely a game that I recommend people try.
What did you like about it the most?
I don't know. I like the team aspect of it. It definitely takes strategy to play it. You have uh, when you start the game, the GUI. It's very intuitive.
Right.
It's very simple to follow. You have your um, the ability to review your hunters, your progression, loadouts, and scroll through like a store where you can buy wisps and call signs and stuff like that.
Right. I think this is going to be a free to play game, right? I'm assuming because it really has that feel to it. And I think that for the testing portion, we got in through our friend Addy.
hmm
And I think for the most part, because I'm not used to playing these types of games, I don't play a lot of top down MOBAs. You've had experience with them in the past. You played Paragon. I don't think
Yep.
you've ever played League of Legends. I don't think either of us have.
I played League of Legends
Oh, did you?
once, and the
Okay.
problem I had was I was immediately met with a toxic ass community. Which with this game, Supervive, I was actually extremely surprised that it wasn't as toxic as I expected because it reminded me a lot of League of Legends.
Right. Very competitive. I think
Oh
for the
yeah,
most part, I mean, for myself, I had a pretty good time with it. I obviously kind of just let it go to the wayside, but you kept playing. And I think you got to like level 25, 26. And the footage I think we're seeing is going to be mostly like games that you did really well in. And
hmm
with that being said, let's talk about how does it play. So give me like the breakdown for the squads. Give me the breakdown for the actual, how you drop in, all that type of stuff.
yeah. So you have a few game modes. You can drop in with your friends and play a duos queue, a squads queue, which is 4 players, and an arena queue where it's 2 squads that battle it out in what I think is an alternate version of the map.
Hmm.
And then once you start the game, you have a drop leader that selects a drop location on the map, and then from there you drop from a capsule onto the map location that is selected. The map location has a bunch of locations. You have biomes and hot zones. You have base camps and vaults. So what I try to keep in mind with this is when you drop in, you want to strategize what locations you hit throughout the map because you can get different armor pieces. You can get different items and gear, and each area has eh, what it does is it has time of day.
Right.
If so, I believe there are 4 day cycles, 4 night cycles, and 4 end game cycles. And they transition. I think it's every 5-6 minutes.
Yeah, yeah. It
Um,
felt pretty quick when we were playing. Like we
yeah,
go day and night, and then enemies would level up, like the ads and the mobs and stuff like that would level up as we were progressing through the game. So
hmm
even if you weren't directly competing with other players, you could go around and then hunt enemies, gain levels, get materials, and then eventually challenge each other. But we did have a couple times where I think you and I had thought that because we were higher level and we thought we had better gear, that we would go ahead and just kind of challenge lower ranked people. But I think we
yeah,
were so new to the game. I think one of the most unique aspects is like you always have to pay attention when you level up that you have your icons and your abilities at the bottom of the screen on the HUD. that literally
That
show
took me
you,
a while to
yeah,
realize.
that you can level up. And I totally didn't notice that until I was like level like 8, and then someone said, "Are you leveling your gear up?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I looked down, I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh shit,
I
we
didn't
can
know I
actually."
had to click something.
I was like, "It's not
Yeah.
automatically leveling as we're going," which is interesting because you actually have the option as you level to choose what abilities you want to unlock.
Oh,
I
yeah.
um I want to talk to you about some of the characters too, because I think this has a really good balance in terms of the heroes and how different they are from one another. What
Mhm.
was your favorite hero to play?
Uh, Jewel, I believe, was her name.
She
She's got these
like,
like lightning
yeah,
abilities.
yeah. You were doing really well with her at the end. I remember like you were usually playing like kind of a support character at the beginning, but you were the most aggressive support character I have ever seen, straight diving at enemies. And then it's interesting because I was kind of curious like with hero shooters just how differently some characters play, and generally in a lot of games tend to be redundant in that regard, but
Mhm.
here everyone does really serve a purpose. Like there are characters that are there strictly to protect and
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
tank hits and stuff like that, draw attention and aggro. And then there are characters that can who have abilities to sneak around. um it is one of those things though that if you do play Supervive and you're looking at it from like top down perspective, you're not really getting too in depth with it. It looks like some characters are just like amalgamations of certain characters you've seen in other games. Like I remember it was I can't remember the hero's name, but she looked like Doomfist, and a lot of her abilities were like
Oh, yeah.
Doomfist and Pharaoh combined, which I really liked because you can get up close and personal, you can knock enemies off, shoot rockets at them. Um, let's talk about the time to kill because you and I we were kind of stunned with how tanky some enemies were. What did you think about
Oh,
that
yeah.
overall?
Um, like, it's I think it was a good amount of time to kill. It wasn't too quick to where, you're going around the map doing looting and upgrading armor, and then immediately when you get hit by enemies, you're dying fast. That's not what's happening here. Um, and I think part of it is your strategy. Like if you have somebody that has healing AoE, as you're fighting, they can hit that AoE and heal you, which keeps you alive a lot longer. But I think uh, I think the time to kill was where it needed to be with this game.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, like fights actually felt like you could survive most encounters. It was not recommended, of course, if you've played these types of games before, to just kind of rush in headfirst because you will get ganged
Oh
up on
no.
quickly. And really experienced teams, because the game got sweaty after like I
Well,
want to say 5 games. People were just like
yeah.
really acclimating, right?
Well, part of the day cycles and night cycles, you actually have soft caps for your levels.
Mhm.
Um, and that's the max level your hunter can reach through killing creeps. And the creeps are the monsters that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, the mobs
There's
and
like,
ads. Yeah.
yep, there's soul bosses, biome leaders, armor chest bosses, and ghosts.
And it's interesting because it's really like the name of the game is really to be prepped as quick as possible, because even if you do a hot drop, right, and let's say you
Mhm.
do get those small minor victories, you're playing against characters or other players that do not have good gear. So
Right.
essentially it's nice to like wipe enemies off the map, but like you'll notice that you're not gaining levels too quickly, right? You still have to
Yep.
go around and search, and then fight mobs, and then also go to vaults and stuff like that, where there's like little mini games that you can engage
Yeah.
in, which I think you
Yep.
did.
Little skill check things.
Yeah, you and I think Brad did pretty well in those, and it's really interesting about those skill checks because as you're opening those vaults, if you mess up an input or if you delay for too long and you don't like destroy the pylons that protect them, they will throw defenses at you, and
Oh
those
yeah.
defenses can kill you.
Yep.
I think one of the most
And
interesting
thank God to
yeah,
DBD for the skill check practice.
yeah. I think one of the most interesting things for myself was that when I learned that there was like I think the middle, right? You really couldn't jump into like that safe zone or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, the heart.
Yeah, the heart, and we engaged enemies there or tried to fight
Oh,
there.
I know where you're talking about. Yes. Yeah,
and
if at night's the only time you can engage enemies in that area.
and I
Like
remember
during the day, if
yeah,
you do that, well, you get clapped.
we got killed so fast. I think one of the more interesting aspects too, as well, is that there's a ton of revive totems, or just revive stations, I guess we'll call them that.
Yeah.
You do have currency in this game. You can go to find shops, but there are a number of areas in which you can revive. You talked about the campsites. Also, campsites are good for organizing gear, getting your shields leveled back up. I think that with the revive feature in this game, it's really interesting because when you die, you do have time when you're like this wisp or this spirit or whatever it is to kind of move around, to kind of position yourself.
Yeah.
You're not moving fast, mind you, and then you can get like small avatars as well. I think I was a frog. I don't know what you
Yeah.
chose.
I chose the chunky cat.
The chunky cat. Yeah, you can move just a smidge, but if you don't get caught in, you have, I want to say like 30. I would say they have a minute or so to survive, just around that time frame. But if you,
Yeah, and the enemy has the ability to immediately kill you by
right,
using their little whatever they call that.
yeah, it's like an ability where it looks like a finisher.
Yeah, like a
Honestly,
finishing
there's
move.
a nice little animation. Somehow you get like a little music in it that's probably copyrighted somehow, and then and then you get killed. And what was super interesting was we had times where, if you get away, you can pick up someone else's essence, their spirit, and then run away with them, and you revive as you're doing so, which I think was pretty cool. There are some characters that have the ability to revive on the spot,
Yep.
and I think that there's kind of a downside with the totem, as there are with reviving in every battle royale game, in which the moment you do so, everyone knows that it's going to happen, and
Yep.
there's kind of a strategy that has to be pushed out there as well, because if you do happen to want to revive somebody and you're not like Addy and running, like halfway across the map, you will get caught up pretty quickly, because some of these people, or some characters rather, have some really, really good like traversal abilities and mechanics. Some of them
Oh
are
yeah.
very fast.
Yeah.
Other
Yeah,
characters can
there's
like jump a little bit or do like a roll, but I've seen characters like leap across like very long distances.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there's ultimately three ways to be revived. There's one way as you're a wisp rolling around, before your wisp time's out, you can be revived. You can be revived at your box. Now those two do not alert the enemies. Now there's two locations to revive you from either a totem or what they call the heart. It's like this large spear.
Hmm.
But those definitely, as soon as you start the timer for that, it alerts all enemies
Yeah,
that you're doing it.
it's a really loud buzzing noise,
Yeah.
and pretty much, and like you also have an indicator on your map. You know,
Yep.
I was
Yep.
curious to see how people felt about that, because you see it, you hear it, it's like everyone knows it's happening, and usually in battle royale games, especially squad based games, it's all about the third party, right? Sometimes it's kind of best to just kind of wait until people are attacking other things, whether that's ads, mobs, or bosses in the
Yeah.
field, or other characters, right? And then slightly just kind of dive right in to kind of clean up, and that's how a lot of people got their victories. I mean, we usually
Yeah.
got clapped by someone who like went and destroyed the field boss that came out. We thought we could kind of just show up, and then we're just getting hit by like a nuke.
Yeah. And I think with the alert system for the map and radar,
Mhm.
I think it's fair compared to, because when you have a top down view, you don't have that field of vision
Right.
that you would normally have in your first person shooters. So in your first person shooters, you can look in the distance and see if people are running around and stuff like that. With the top down map, you really are limited by what is in your field of vision there.
That's true.
So I think the alerting system is what is needed for that to
Mhm.
keep things moving and flowing. But it also kind of goes back to that whole, you have to be strategizing what you do. Like if you go down, and or if your team goes down, you're the last one left and you need to go revive everyone. Um the last thing you want to do is use a totem that's right next to the enemies that just killed you,
Which has happened a
because
couple times.
yeah, that happens a lot. So you definitely have to strategize where you're going to go to revive your teammates, and how far you're going to travel for that.
Yeah, I think like the game plays really well, in my opinion. I think that
It really does.
it's obvious that the influences are there. You can see them, but I think overall it handles very well, even for someone like myself who doesn't play a lot of keyboard and mouse games.
Yeah.
I was very surprised by how like intuitive everything was, how easy everything was moving. I like the fact that you do have your glider, right, which is good for like going across like large gaps. I think the maps were fairly readable. The mini maps do give a lot of information to you.
Hmm.
I feel like the player does have more than enough information to kind of strategize with their team if they happen to be part of that, or just like wander aimlessly and just kind of follow the
Yeah.
one person who's ahead of us, basically. But it's interesting because I didn't expect the mechanics to work as fluidly as they did, because most testing periods are pretty rough, right? But for the most
Yeah.
part, I think that this was super solid. I didn't have any issues.
Yeah. For an alpha testing
Yeah,
period, it
it's
was
very
pretty good.
yeah, it's pretty shocking too. You also have like a nice little training practice arena, which allows you to get really acclimated to each of the
Yep.
characters. You can understand the classes. You can understand how things work. Like, it's really well done, really well sculpted, and
Yeah, and I can't imagine what else they need to polish. I mean, the game already looks pretty polished, so for it to be alpha testing period, it looks like it's already a completed game.
that's something that we're going to talk about right now. Is like, what changes would you like to see moving forward with it? I think so
Um,
far for myself, like Supervive, overall solid. But like, once again, I don't play these types of games, so
yeah.
if someone who's watching this wants to leave a comment and tell me what they thought about it, or tell us what they thought about it, and what they'd like to see change, like, that's cool. But like, I want to know also from you, like, what changes would you like to see moving forward, seeing how you were pretty much obsessed with this game near the end, messaging me and saying like, Ken, you want to play some Supervive? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's I used to play Paragon a lot, and now that's slightly different as it's a like third person view over the shoulder. But as far as like MOBAs, this definitely has helped get my fix. So as far as changes I would like to see, gameplay wise, the mechanics, I think they're great. I didn't s- I didn't really feel there was anything I did not like about it.
mhm.
Um, if anything, I definitely would like to see more opportunities in the store to upgrade skins or change skins. The money system is interesting. Um, you get coins or money through the pass, the I guess you can call it battle pass.
Yeah.
Um, now it does give you a lot. I think every so many levels you get 25,000 coins.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
What do you think that was for the testing period? Do you think that's going to like
I don't
extend
know.
itself
I
to
don't
the
know.
full release?
I think they wanted to test the battle pass to see if it was something that would, you know, last long.
Mhm.
But like any other game, I'm sure they're going to have a paid version.
I'm kind of curious about that as well. I would say, like, with some of these games, when they go into their testing periods, you can get a lot of information from how their menus are set up. I
Yeah.
think that obviously this is going to get polished as we're moving forward. One of my favorite things to look at was like when they introduced, I think, two new characters near the end of the testing period, where it had they were pretty much like
Oh,
they were kind
yeah.
of like concept art, which was really funny. They were just
Yeah.
like the 3D model, not much in terms of detail, because every other character that they had like really strong details in them. They were like clearly defined. They animated well. It was really fun. And then you had like a character who was new character, had a Gatling gun. It was like just the 3D model of him, and it was really funny going
Right.
into the practice arena. And if you shot with him, it was like he wouldn't move. The Gatling gun wouldn't move. It just had a cone show up and it was just fire. Um, but yeah, I think that the fact that they're already thinking in that direction. I wonder though if they're going to, when the game goes into, I'm assuming it's going to be early access, right? That's generally how a lot of these games work, because it allows the community and game like to kind of to grow with one another, right?
Yeah.
Get the feedback and then you apply the feedback, that type of
Yeah.
stuff. I'm wondering if they're going to like have unlocks for those characters, because I think we had, I think, 10 total, right? That you could like have at the beginning, and then you had like to unlock them. But I
Yeah.
felt like the unlock system wasn't clearly defined. How we
So
like,
the character selection system is reminds me a lot of Valorant. And
yeah,
that's who I forgot to mention is yeah, Valorant developers were part of this too.
right.
But I think if they follow that, it'll be a um seasonal thing where every so many seasons they do release a new character.
Yeah, and as long as they don't go overboard with like monetization, right? We're not
Yeah, I
charging.
think the characters shouldn't be charged, um, like Overwatch. In order to get certain
Let's
characters,
not
you have to.
hide them 50 levels deep into a battle pass or something.
Yeah, right. Or I mean, I wouldn't mind unlocking a character through a battle pass, but make it through the free version of it versus the having to pay for it.
Yeah, that would be weird if you like, because essentially you're hiding a character, and that character could be the difference on a team, right?
Oh yeah.
That's certainly how that works. There's a lot of balancing that has to get worked out, and sometimes
Hmm.
you're going to see a character just randomly appear, and that character is quite potentially stronger than any other character that's currently being used. But for the most part, I will agree with you on this when we talked about this before. I think that almost every character felt good to play, and
Yeah, it
there was
felt
good
very
balance.
balanced.
And the game does, remind you that there are stars allocated in terms of difficulty, which is something I really appreciate in a lot of games. Fighting games do it a lot, where it's like the level of difficulty for this character is relatively high, right? Especially like the melee characters who have high mobility, moves that are going to buff or debuff. You know, they do give you options to pick characters that have a wide assortment of moves. If you just want to kind of play the basic shooter person, that character does exist. That character is there. But I love the fact that they give like difficulty stars to at least tell players like, hey, this character might be a little too hard for beginners,
Right.
you know?
Right.
And I do like the fact that it
And they
kind of
do
tiers
have,
up.
yeah, they do have a little system that tells you how hard each character is to
Yeah,
play.
which I do really like. And once again,
Yeah.
you can go into the practice arena, you can find it for yourself.
Yeah.
But every character, you know, it's really balanced. I really like that. I really like the emphasis on the team dynamic. I think that really helps with like getting into these like high pressure situations, and you have your tanks doing what they're supposed to, your supports doing what they're supposed to, DPS. It's a
Yep.
lot of fun. Very surprising because when we got invited to play it, when I first saw this being played, my brain went, I'm probably going to hate this. I'm probably going to hate this. I don't play
Yeah, I
MOBAs.
wasn't sure if it was yours and Brad's kind of game, but I think you guys did pretty good with it.
Yeah, I think I had, pretty fun with it, even though I was, still learning about certain things. And I do, I probably should have paid more attention to some of the tutorials and stuff like that. I was just like, let's just dive right in and see where it goes. And I feel like a lot of people did
Sometimes
that.
that's the best way to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, just get your feet wet. I mean, we're not playing ranked. We did play a couple games of ranked, which, by the way, I like the rank system. It reminded me of Apex, like completely. It was not only
Yeah.
just like kills, but time survive, that type of stuff. Really basic. I assume it's going to reset within every season.
Yeah. And I think you're gonna find that a lot of the newer games, because there's so many games out there that it's very saturated. So in order to stand out, I think what's gonna need to happen is a lot of these games are need to be made by a combination of a couple different developers.
Yeah,
Because what they're gonna do is they're gonna take elements from different games that people love and put it in one. And I think Supervive is gonna do really well with that.
yeah. I think most impressions I saw about this game were really positive, and I think a lot of people were pretty surprised about just how well it handled, because it kind of came out of nowhere for me, at least, where I had never heard of this game, didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
I was expecting a first-person shooter or something like that, and then I got a game that really surprised me. Jack, what are you looking forward to in the future for this game? I know that we do know that there is another testing period.
Yep,
that is
there's
going
a beta testing period, late 2024. It sounds like it might be around November.
November. Okay.
And it looks like it should probably officially be released by early 2025.
Right, and we're talking, and I would probably think like not full release, more than likely early access, that type of stuff. I would be very
Yeah,
shocked if it's
most
kind of a
likely.
full release. You know what I mean? If it's free to play, that's great. Whatever. But a full release would be kind of weird. But the game is really polished, and I'm kind of curious to see what happens.
Yeah,
in the
I'm
testing
interested
period.
in seeing more characters, more hunters. I'm interested in seeing if they create more than one map.
Yeah,
And seeing if it alternates between maps like how Apex does.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I think what'll happen is if it's the same map over and over again, which you have the same map in League of Legends and other MOBAs, so I can't really complain about it. But For a battle royale, I think it'll get old fast if they don't have at least maps to alternate with.
Yeah. I mean, you're looking at new seasonal awards. I wonder if they're going to create variants of the characters because I we were just playing Concord, and one of the interesting things about that game, it's a 5v5 hero shooter that I'm going to be covering soon.
Uh-huh.
Probably that video will probably come up before this one. But what's interesting is that they have variants of each character that you could unlock through bounties, and then it changes the way their passives are, which I think is
Oh,
really
interesting.
cool. Yeah. And I wonder if there's going to be variants of the different characters. And by the way, I always like was curious about this. So instead of like introducing new characters, just create variants of them. You know, change certain things that they do, change some of their active abilities and their passives, and maybe some of their squad buffs, that type of stuff. I've always
Yeah,
been curious as to why that wasn't like fully implemented by now, because it is an interesting dynamic to think about. It's like, well, my main
that is.
version of this character does this really well, but my variant gives me like more ammo or more resources, a new crew buff, that type of stuff. I was like, that looks like it could like change the dynamic because it allows the player to still be comfortable with that character, but
Right.
also apply subtle changes to ensure that there's a little bit of change there for them. I think that for the most part, your impressions of Supervive are really positive. And it's really funny because once again, we were playing this game, and the first time we kind of went through it, we're like, okay, yeah, it's pretty fun. And then I think me and Brad left. I think I was level 11, he was 12. We were all the same level. And then we hop back on with Jack, and he's level 25. And I'm like, what just happened? What is going on? And I was telling him on his stream that if he gets a dub, I'd gift him 5 subs. And I actually missed his first dub, and I think that's primarily the footage we're playing is because this will be like a 25-30 minute video. But that's what we're playing in the background is Jeks, I think, first or second win while playing
Yep.
Supervive. What did
Yep.
you? How nervous were you when you got to that end part? Like how tense was that? By the way, did it, like do a good job of like getting that battle royale
I
feel
tell
where
you
it's
what,
like one
when
on one?
yeah, when you get to that one-on-one team battle, it is nerve-wracking. Like it is hard to defeat the enemy teams when they're a level 9 and they have I don't know what it is, but there's this boss that you can fight to gain souls or something like that and get an extra buff. But if they have that, you're like screwed. So it's very important that your team plays together to make sure that you keep yourselves alive, but also strategically fight the enemy team.
Yeah,
Um,
I really like the fact that you have to kind of be proactive at the end. If it's a 1v1, you see that boss on the field, if you have the opportunity to defeat the boss and get that buff, that can really be the difference in that win. Or
yeah.
if you're lucky, you might be able to knock them all off the edge where they can't, use their glider, which is always hilarious to see, by the way. That's such a it's such a
Yeah,
trolly
that
way
is
to kill
funny.
somebody.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really glad that you enjoyed Supervive. I'm glad that we were introduced to it by Addie. A lot of fun. Shout
Yeah, it
out
was
to her.
extremely fun.
Yeah. Uh,
Um,
More than likely Jack's comfort game moving forward, so he can kind of get away from like Rocket League and Dead by Daylight or whatever he was playing. Let's get some closing thoughts here really quickly. So, what do you want to tell everyone about Supervive? Just like if people just skip to the end of this and just want to hear what your overall thoughts were. Joe, give me like a minute.
yeah. If you like games like League of Legends, with a combination of like Overwatch and Apex Legends elements, this is definitely a game you want to try. It's been extremely fun. The team-based aspect is extremely fun. You got strategy. You have a perfect time to kill. Period. You have so many creeps and monsters to fight. You have so many elements in the map to loot out in, and you have these unique gliders that allow you to traverse the map from an island to island, but also taking the risk of getting shot down in the middle of your flight. But it's again, it's an amazing game. If you work as a team and you communicate, it's you can definitely reach the end game almost every single match. Um, like we've gotten second place numerous times.
Numerous
It's
times.
very yeah. So it's not hard to get to end game if you work as a team. But I highly recommend it if you're a fan of, again, League of Legends and Overwatch and Apex Legends. It's definitely the game for you.
100%. I agree with that. I was very surprised by this game. I think we're both pleasantly surprised, and we are looking forward to that testing period in fall of 2024, and
Yep.
ultimately its release next year, which we're assuming early 2025. I would say like early mid would probably be like the best guess. And I'm kind of glad also, as like a closing thought for myself, that they are taking their time with the testing periods and they are not having a testing period a month prior to release, which I've always felt like could be problematic, especially if it's your first time getting hands on a game.
Yeah.
I'm glad the developers took their time and made sure that everyone gets their chance to play the game, and then they can apply their feedback. I believe I'm gonna
Yep.
probably leave their Discord link in our description because
Yep.
they
And
did
I
pretty much leave it free to everybody. And then also I'll leave a link to Jek's stream. Right, this game got
yeah,
him
because
back into
I
streaming.
signed up for their I signed up for their creator program. So if I get accepted for that, and the next beta testing period is behind a key system, I'll have keys.
He's gonna throw out them keys, and also, once again, it allowed Jek to stream again because he went on a nice little hiatus, and
Yep,
Supervive brought him back. So thank you,
it did.
TheoryCraft Games, for letting him enjoy himself again. And that's gonna do it for this video. So if you happen to like the content, if you happen to want to leave a comment below, please feel free to do so. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I'm Ken,
Hit that like.
and that is Jack from Pixelated Thoughts, and we will talk to you next time. Bye,
See
everybody.
ya.